All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar titled This Season's Playbook, The Marketing Secrets Delivering Real Results. And we're so glad, again, that you can join us. My name is Fareed. I'll be your host for this session. I'm product marketing with Cargas, and we've got a fantastic topic lined up today, especially for those of you who are in the residential fuel delivery business or looking not just to survive in today's market, but to grow faster and stronger. And we all know that marketing, as much as anything, has changed so much in recent years. And keeping up with what actually works is probably overwhelming for so many of you. And that's why we've invited somebody today who's been right in the trenches for many, many years, helping fuel dealers drive their sales, keeping their customers, and turning marketing into something that is actionable and serious for their businesses. And our speaker today is Andrew Madeira, my friend, founder of the Madeira Group, which was recently transformed into Navara. And in fact, I will let Andrew talk a little bit about that once he takes over here. But Andrew, again, has worked closely with so many propane and oil dealers to design and execute marketing strategies that get measurable real world results. And so in the next few minutes, that's exactly what Andrew's going to walk us through, which marketing plays his clients are using right now, email campaigns, website tweaks, LinkedIn strategies. So many things that he's going to share some insights on. So before we dive in and I pass it to Andrew, quick housekeeping notes. We will have Q&A at the end. So at any time, feel free to drop your questions in the chat. If you are joining us, there should be a chat or questions not button submission thing that you can put in your question. And at the end of it, I will be sure to read that for Andrew or anyone to answer. And secondly, this session is being recorded and you will get a copy of it in 24 hours or so you can revisit any part of the presentation that you want to revisit. And with all of that, let's get started. Welcome, Andrew. Take it away. And yeah, thanks for joining us. And yeah, why don't you start us with explaining what's happening with Navara, and then just get right into it. Thanks, Andrew.
Absolutely. Thanks, Fareed. Appreciate the invite, for the Cargas webinar series. About 6 months ago, Brett and I finally decided to pull the trigger and just merge the two businesses together. We did some testing over the past year with the two teams. On the back end, we use our management software is called Notion. So we set up an environment where the teams started to interact about a year ago, and it went really well. So, we were sitting in Charlotte at NPGA actually, and I was like, all right, you ready to do this? He's like, yep, okay, let's do it. So we worked frivolously since then, and we've tried to make sure that there was no interference with any kind of client day-to-day stuff. And I have been doing some individual feedback with each client, and they were like, we barely noticed it. And their reaction was it was about time. Brett and I have been working together probably a little over 10 years. L4 Group has been on the execution side and not as much on the public facing side as Madeira Group. For all the people that know me on this call, I love to be out there. I love to be the face of it and talk with as many people as possible, about our industry, because I love it. That's what gets me out of bed every day. So yeah, no, we're excited about it. There's a ton more to come. We're doing some more webinars with some of the other industry partners that we have. So look for some other stuff coming up, and you guys will be able to meet Brett if you haven't met him already, with some of those webinars, and we'll all be, at the industry events coming up.
So Andrew, before we go ahead, so what can your clients or future clients expect that's different now that you have expanded and merged with L4 that's not there before? What's new?
I would say that we've really managed to layer in everything, as far as like the client partner who manages each account, to that next level of execution, whether it's email marketing, it's a pay-per-click campaign, it's social media management, building out, an acquisition timeline, for a lot of the clients we work with are doing acquisitions right now. So, like working on that part of it. We liked our speed before. I think I like our speed even better now. We've really dialed in, the strengths of each individual and put them in a place that is perfectly fit for what their strengths and weaknesses are. And that way everyone's working on the stuff they love and everyone's working on the things they're really strong at. And Brett and I are, sitting at the, kind of the 30,000 foot level, in some days, and other days, we're right in the mix with them. I can't seem to figure out how to stay at the 30,000 foot level. I love being in the client's offices still. I still go to almost all the media shoots. I can't just get out of it. So, but Brett does a great job of managing, the execution team, on the day to day. Whereas sometimes I get, way out in front of my skis a little bit with crazy ideas. I want to do this. He'll rein me back. We're just a good yin and yang, honestly.
That's cool. That's cool. All right, man, take it away.
Great. All right. So let's start with, I'd like to ask, myself, and I think that this is when a question dealers should be asking themselves, what if your emails didn't just talk to customers in an informational capacity? They weren't just informing, but you're always looking to make sure that any emails you're sending out create action. And we're going to talk a little bit about the fatigue factor, on that. So that way you're sending emails that are relevant. And the start that we take with email marketing really comes with building really good templates for each individual segment that we're hitting within your customer data, within your customer base, sorry. And whether you're talking to your automatics, whether you're talking to your propane customers, your heating oil customers, do they have service contracts? Do they not have service contracts? Have they recently had service? Are they overdue for service? Are you pushing, installs? And the importance of having your customer data super segmented when it comes to email marketing is that you're getting people the data, or sorry, the offers and the information they need to make more decisions and do more business with you. So we're always looking to create more actionable emails and create more momentum, behind decision making when it comes to information that we send them. So, sending the right offer to the right customer, automating, as much as possible. And one example of automations, every week we pull a list of every single customer who had a service call, and we go through either with the service manager, or we'll go through with their lead CSR and say, hey, any of these shouldn't get a request for a review as a follow-up. Now, this is a kind of a fail-safe for review requests. There's much easier ways to do it, but we found that, as everyone on this call knows, if they have service technicians, that they're not always the most interactive people with the customers. So this is our way of doing is immediate follow-up to any kind of service, install, tune-up work to try to boost reputation, online. Nearby Now is a platform that we utilize, and their stats show that the longer you wait to ask for a review, the less likely the customer is to review. So we try to get the review requests out there as fast as possible. But like I said, we all know that the service technicians aren't always willing to interact, and sometimes the homeowner's not home. When the service happens, or the install happens, or the tune-up happens. The next kind of segmentation that we go after is like their account status. Is there mechanisms that you need to put in place that says like, hey, you've been a will call customer for the last 2 years. We have your delivery history. Here's our price protection program that we think would fit really well for you. And it'll help you budget, for this upcoming heating season, whether it's oil or propane. I think that's the example to the right there. Yes, it's a budget campaign. And then the thing that we like most about email marketing and the segmentation that we pride ourselves on is we're able to keep a pulse on email fatigue. We make sure we're watching open rates and click-through rates and stuff like that, and we review them every single month with each individual client. You asked before, what's one thing that we've definitely improved on is the monthly cadence of events that happen with the interaction with Navara as well as the clients. And it's the partner meeting, and you go over everything that happened that month, so they can see that, hey, you guys sent out 12 emails this month. Oh my God, how many unsubscribes? Well, one customer might have only gotten 2 of those emails. They might have only gotten 1 email, depending on the targets of the customer base that we had, and depending on if maybe a newsletter went out, maybe they got 2, maybe they got 3, but it was relevant to what they have, don't have, or what you want them to have. So that's really taking the data and being really smart with it from an email marketing perspective is something that we are really pushing forward hard on. And hitting the send all button minus a newsletter, here and there, is really something we stay away from.
So it sounds like you're advocating that you should never send a mass email that is not segmented. Am I hearing you correctly there, Andrew?
Yes, 100%. Unless maybe a newsletter, from
Right.
time to time. Yes, absolutely. But even the newsletter sometimes, I'm, if you have an unengaged list, a lot of the marketing tools, whether it's HubSpot, Active Campaign, even MailChimp and Constant Contact, you're getting a sending score, and the higher you keep your sending score, which relates to opens and clicks and email interaction by the recipients, you want to keep that score high with whatever platform you're using, so that way your deliverability, right, to all of the people in your email list are getting them, and you're not getting any kind of spam scores. That way they're hitting inboxes.
And the number varies, right? What do you find to be a good max email that each contact is getting every month before they hit that fatigue most of the time?
There are obviously, there's a seasonality to our business, right? So it's just
Right. Exactly.
dependent,
Yeah.
it depends on, what type of the season, what time of the year it is. Are we trying to get tune-ups, scheduled early, so that way when November, December hits in October, it's like you've gotten some of those out of the way in the summer, and and flattened out kind of your tune-up schedule. That way you're making room. If you're adding new autos who are used to having a service contract and getting their regular tune-ups, you're making room in the schedule for them, and it doesn't feel like it's a panic mode when you're trying to get a tech to do 3 tune-ups, 4 tune-ups a day.
Right. Right.
The, the
So,
other
the next thing is I think for most of our listeners that haven't even jumped in, and this might be a question that they even ask later, right? They'd be like, what segment? I don't even know. So, so you mentioned a whole bunch of segmentation ideas there. What's an ideal starting point for a company? You're saying segment this, this, and this. Is there some practical things that you can kind of throw at us?
Absolutely. So to start at your bare minimum, I would say at least separate out your autos, your will calls. And if you can separate out oil and propane in each one of those, in autos and will calls, that's even better. And then you want to at least have who has service contracts and who doesn't. And if you can get deeper, who has a heating service contract versus who has a heating service contract and an air conditioning service contract, then when you have all of that data, then you can start to run your dual fuel discounts, emails. You can run your dual service, add another service plan and you get a discount for adding an air conditioning service plan if you already have a heating one, you know, and stuff like that. So it's just like the more data that you have on each customer, the more kind of intimate you can make the offers, because you know, like, all right, Mrs. Jones is an automatic propane customer, sorry, an
Yep.
automatic heating oil customer, but I know she uses propane for,
Yep.
you know, cooking, backup generation, and her pool heater. She has a heating service contract. She knows about the dual fuel discount. So why don't we try to kick her, you know, an air conditioning service contract? Because I know that she has a carrier unit that occasionally we go out and service only when she breaks. So, you know, you kick her like another offer because she knows about her dual fuel discount. You kick her an offer around having, you know, multiple service contracts and a discount around that. You're just making that customer stickier and stickier.
Yep.
But it's really relevant to Mrs. Jones because you've told her, hey, we know that you have X, Y, and Z. Would you want to add an air conditioning service contract and take advantage of, you know, the multi-service contract discount?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just add two things because, you know, as I'm helping, you know, different clients, customers with kind of segmentation too, I've always said like there's always that threshold where you don't want to get too cute and get over segment, right? You don't want to over segment your, and what I mean is like if you have a segment that has 20 people in it, that's probably not worth segmenting, right? Like you
Yeah.
kind of want to hit that sweet spot where, because you need to maintain that and all that stuff. So there's like a threshold that you kind of want to make sure that you're hitting like enough people and not like kind of get too cumbersome by like these small segments. So the next thing I want to add is like, you know, all of this is predicament on you being able to actually do this with your system. And so if you work with, I think most of our attendees here are using Cargas, right? With us, there's two ways that you can get these segments done. You can get them manually through, which is if you're using most of, you know, any emailing system, usually they take a spreadsheet import. So you want to get them in a spreadsheet format out of Cargas. And we have easily with Cargas query, you can get, you know, all the stuff that Andrew was just talking about. It's you can easily push that out using Cargas query into a spreadsheet, import into the system that you use, and boom, done. We do have automatic integration with HubSpot as one of the premier solution that we kind of integrate with, and there's an automated way to get these things pushed into HubSpot, and then you do your segmentation in HubSpot. So they're more dynamic, more automated, easier that way. Those are just the two things that I just want to interject with before we move on to the next thing. Thanks, Andrew. Take it away.
Yeah, no problem. And I just the one last thing I wanted to add on the, especially on the email marketing tools. Not every, you know, marketing platform, you know, email marketing platform has this, but the ones that we push, you know, to use with each client does. And it's called predictive sending. So if Mrs. Jones has opened up at least 4 or 5 emails from you over the course of any time period, and the platform will take when Mrs. Jones has opened those emails and it'll average it out. And that way you could say that you want to send a certain campaign at 9 a.m., but it's not going to send it to Mrs. Jones until 3:30 because the last 4 times she's opened her email around 3:30. So we have found that taking advantage of like predictive sending with the marketing tool that you have has just really increased the interaction with all of the emails. And you compound that with sending to the right segment with the right offer, and then now you're really utilizing your email list, you know, to generate more business or, you know, more service. All right, I'm going to jump to the next thing. So Fareed, you asked, you know, about segmenting and which segments should you have and which one should you start with and stuff like that. You know, sometimes we get to, you know, customers, clients, and, you know, their email lists are smaller. They have a good base, a customer base, but we need to go and start attacking, you know, just gathering emails. And while we're gathering emails, we utilize customer surveys to start the segmentation, and which also helps the client put that information into their back office system if they haven't been tracking those things. So we'll run customer surveys, asking them, how old is your equipment? And again, it's not going to be perfect. but how old's your system? Do you have a service contract? You know, do you like being an automatic delivery customer? Did you know that we have price protection programs? So running customer surveys helps segment even beyond what we can sometimes pull out of the ERP back office systems like Cargas. So just this is the last like item I had on the email marketing, but making sure you're surveying your customers every single year and strategizing what the survey is about is super important. What kind of campaigns are you going to generate based on the questions you're asking in the survey is super important. So survey your customers every year. And I'll say the one thing, if you want a good opt-in rate on your customer surveys, give away some really cool stuff. Give away to one person fuel for a year, you know, or 5 $200 Amazon gift cards for 5 people, that 5 out of the, you know, however many people fill out the survey. The more that you're willing to kind of give back to the customer base, the more opt-ins you're going to get, and the more data you're going to get for that base of customers you sent it to, which will help generate more business. I guarantee it. We've done it for years now, and we just continue to dial in. And we've actually gotten to the point now where we do 2 or 3 different surveys for different customer bases, one to autos, one to will calls, one to service only customers, just trying to generate that little bit more, you know, on the data points so we can hit them with more offers and more information to do more business with them.
Yeah, that's cool. I just want to add too that I agree, and I think one of the hardest things if you've never done surveys is to really overcome. It's like, is that worth it? It's like, is all this efforts worth it? Like, you know, you mentioned, you know, I don't know that anybody have done that. Like free fuel for a year, for example, that's like a lot of money. But like to be honest, like depending on kind of what kind of response you're getting, it's totally worth it to be able to really understand, right? And like you said, it does generate a lot more potential for future sales if you know what your customer wants. So you just got to make sure that your surveys are asking the right questions. My second comment was going to be on technicalities. What tools do you use to do these surveys, Andrew?
We're diehards on the Google survey. It kicks out, the way it kicks back the data to us just makes it so easy to put back into HubSpot or ActiveCampaign or MailChimp or Constant Contact. And that way we can put it back in and put all the appropriate tags to them. So that way, when I say, Mrs. Jones, you recently filled out, you know, our customer survey, and you mentioned that, you know, your heating system was 25 years or older, and that it hasn't been tuned up, you know, in over 3 years. Would you like for us to, you know, take a look at your, you know, your system and see if it's time to replace it? On top of that, here's a $500 offer, you know, if you choose to move forward with a new installation. And, you know, it's like, you told us that, you know, so it doesn't feel like, you know, a salesy promotional email, because Mrs. Jones like, yeah, I did tell him that, you know. So and then you throw an offer on top of that, it just makes them jump a little bit deeper into that sales cycle right out of the bat. It makes it easier for the sales guys too.
All right, cool.
All right. Your website. You know, I feel like there's a million things that we could talk about with websites. And I'm only gonna kind of I'm gonna focus on 1 or 2 kind of real main points on websites. I don't know if the DeBoer guys are on today. I think I saw them register, but we just finished theirs not too long ago. And the one thing we were really focused on, not only theirs, but all the websites that we've built in, you know, in the past, is get them to where they need to go or where they want to go as fast as possible and as easy as possible. Whether they're trying to go pay their bill, whether they're looking to see if you offer air conditioning service, whether they're looking to see what kind of price protection programs you offer, its budgets, pre-buys, caps, and stuff like that. They just want to see what you have and as fast as possible. And I will say that what we've been doing the last 5 years, maybe more, is we've been building mobile first. So we build the mobile side of the websites first because, as everyone knows, everyone just sits on their phone. I don't even know where my phone is, but you sit on your phone all day long. All the customers are looking at everything pretty much via mobile for the most part. There's different pockets in the country where that data is not completely accurate. I understand that. But for the most part, we're building mobile first and then the desktop version. So that way we know that when the site interacts with someone, when they pull it up on different devices, you want to be able to have it so it displays and gets them to their journey as fast as possible. And Fareed, I feel like you're going to ask me what platform do we use to build websites, and we
You
are
got
we're WordPress, WordPress all day long. It's the easiest to build. They accommodate for, gosh, it feels like almost every device these days, whether it's, you know, a cell phone, a tablet, laptop, desktop. It just makes it easier, and also you can get sexier and cooler, you know, with the themes and stuff like that. It just allows you to do more, and the plugins, you know, that you have, you know, at your availability are, feels like I almost said like they're endless at this point. So, you know,
Yeah,
what
I
have
will
a
just, I mean, I'll put the plug for WordPress because I built the cargasenergy.com website with WordPress 10 years ago now, and it's still kicking. It's not out of date. It's so flexible and it's been, and the other thing about WordPress that's so underrated is so SEO friendly. Like it's probably one of the best tools out there to get your site out in Google and being indexed. And so I love it. So
100%. Um, Um, and then just the last thing on websites, if you have to focus on 3 pages that should be your main focus is your homepage, your contact us page, and your about us page. Your homepage should be easily like navigated, but also just easily pushed into the different buckets, into the different silos of the business that you have, whether it's fuel or service, doesn't matter. Just get them to where they need to go. The contact us page, if you have multiple offices, put them all there. You know, the one you're going to get, for you're just talking about SEO, the more you put on your contact us page, the more the Google bots are going to crawl that page and be like, wow, like they do service here, they service there, they have an office here. And then when you connect that to your Google business profile, you know, now you really start to power up your Google, you know, your Google presence. And then the about us page. Don't slack on this. You know, like there's a lot of companies that are on this webinar today that are probably 50 years or older, you know, and some maybe even close to 100. People want to see that story. If you have old pictures of your grandparents or, you know, your uncles, your aunts, whoever, you know, that were in black and whites, you know, tell that story, tell that journey. People really enjoy that. Every time we look at website analytics, I swear, like the About Us page is the second most traveled, if not the third most traveled page on every single website we look at, even before we get to building new ones. But then after we build the new ones, you know, we really challenge, you know, the clients when we're building a new ones, like let's really take and dig in on your About Us page. And after, they're so proud of it too. So the About Us page, so important.
yeah, I will just add there too, like as a rule for me, like there's two things that stick out to mind. One, like if you said you were building mobile first, right? So
Yes.
the trick is you don't want to be especially the about us, because I've seen some really long about us page. Like you don't want it to be a book, right? You want it to convey enough information that you, like you said, and I think there's true value in there because especially if you're like a locally owned company, that's the story you want to push out there because there are really prospects who are still valuing that local connection with real people. They want to know that when they call is actually somebody that's sitting in a local office, things like that. So showing your photos is huge for me, like photo of your team. Like it always, for me, it's kind of a turn off when I go into these about page and I know that it's a stock photography and not like real photo, you know, like that's, I'm like, come on, like are you guys, you know, so, and but then the story, so like you were like talking about DeBoer, and I visit their page on the mobile. I love that I can do 2 3 scrolls and they're about us and it tells me everything I need to know about that company, and it's clear, like the history, their photos and everything. So kudos to you guys for making it so concise and yet informative like that.
Thanks, I appreciate it, Fried. If anyone wants to see one of my favorite, and it's a little self-serving, but it's just my favorite, the Noonan Energy in Springfield, Massachusetts. Check out that about page. If everyone modeled their about page on their sites after that one, gosh, everyone would be really kicking some ass. That's my favorite one. All right. All right. Last thing on websites is I just want to talk, and it's not so much website, it's landing pages. Frida, one thing that we're, again, I'm going back to what you asked, one thing that we're really pushing harder on than we were even before was, if we're running a campaign, a specific campaign, whether it's pay-per-click, a large ongoing promotion, any kind of like longer term campaign that we need to watch like results and maybe like tweak or make adjustments to, we're building specific landing pages for those campaigns. We're not driving to the homepage. We're not driving to the propane page. We're not driving to the fuel oil page. We're not driving to any of the services, pages or anything like that. We're building a specific landing page for that, and it doesn't have any of the navigation on that. It's the information and content is there specifically around that offer. So when they say yes and click, whether it's from Google pay-per-click, LSA ads, email marketing, however that vehicle is that's getting them to the landing page, they're there for that specific reason. And there's a call track number there, and there's a form submission there. And that way we can really track the results of those campaigns, especially the longer ones. And that way every month we can go, all right, do we need to make tweaks to this? Like, is the offer good enough? Is the offer too rich? Is the offer not good enough? Do we need to, make the offer bigger and bolder? Is the call track number getting hit enough? Or is there more form submissions than call rail numbers or call rail counts? So it's just having campaigns run to direct landing pages off your root domain is something that, I feel like Brett and his team are probably getting tired of the client partners, because we've conditioned them now to pretty much every campaign. We need a landing page. We need a landing page with specific autoresponders if they fill out the forms. We put the whisper message in the call rail numbers. That way, when the CSR or the salesperson picks up, they're like, oh, this offer is so-and-so. Okay, so that way they know how to speak to that offer right out of the chute. So I just wanted to just touch on the landing page thing. I think that's just something that maybe gets overlooked, especially when people run bigger campaigns for new fuel customers, whether it's propane or oil, and then also with bigger, install campaigns and service offerings and stuff like that. Landing pages are key, and it also just helps to measure how good the campaigns are doing.
Yeah, let me just add real quick on this one too. This is again made super easy if you use a marketing platform that has either a built-in landing pages feature, or like what we do at Cargas, we just use the form feature, right? So we built our own landing page. We just put in the tools, in this case HubSpot, their form, and when somebody fills out this information that you're looking for, it gets pushed automatically into your the CRM system, and it becomes a lead there, and you can do the tracking and how many people, like all of that automatically is done on the platform for you. It's, so that's why it's key to use the right system there.
Yep. Oops. All right. So reputation management, Google reviews, social reviews, just having testimonials, present on your website. They're just so important. And I went back. I'm going to go back to the email marketing we talked about, and just trying to generate more reviews, whether it's a text message follow up, through the Cargas texting feature, after the service call, after a delivery, that's a great vehicle. Whether it's email marketing after service calls, or deliveries. Pushing hard on your reviews consistently will only benefit you, because let's be honest, everyone on this call has had a bad review. And if you haven't, congratulations, you are the unicorn. But the best way to bury a bad review is to stack 10 on top. So, the more good reviews you have, the quieter, the less relevant the one or two bad ones, that are maybe in that first 20 scroll, are. So I just, the reputation management is something that we take so seriously. We harp on it. We we probably become annoying about it at some points, but I will say that everyone that we work with appreciates it, because all of a sudden, they 12 months later, they're like, oh my God, we have 500 reviews. We have, 600 reviews. We have 375 reviews, and they go from a 3.7, a 3.9, all the way up to a 4.5, 4.6, 4.7, or even higher. So I think, just making sure that you're paying attention to your reputation, always, and never forgetting about it is just so important these days, because everyone's looking. And I'll say this too, as ChatGPT becomes a vehicle for looking at different things, almost a search engine. It hasn't become a full search engine yet, but as ChatGPT becomes more relevant in what people are looking for, they are going and looking at how good are you at propane delivery, heating oil delivery, how good are you at heater service, air conditioning service. So when they go and look at what your star rating is and the details inside of those reviews, it's only going to help you as AI gets more intelligent, and becomes more of a search vehicle, for the residential and small business commercial accounts. All right, Fried, anything on the reputation stuff? I know that Cargas has the ability to do, some of the follow-ups and stuff like that, but is there anything that I missed on the Cargas side?
No. I think you hit it nail on the head. And I think what I will add on the review side too is like it becomes even more important when the type of businesses that you are deals directly with service, right? And I think like there was and I think I had to chuckle a little bit when you said something about one bad review can kind of ruin your reputation, and 10 of them can kind of overcome, because like that happened to us with Cargas apparently. And we still haven't figured out what happened, but somebody supposedly was bit by a dog by somebody that share our office, and it leaves like a 1 or 2 star review for our business. And I was like, who are you? And so it's kind of one of those things that, and I think we are in a different place in terms of like, oh, we're selling software, so it's kind of clear that it's not related, right?
Right.
But it's just so important because I am a sucker for good Google reviews. When I visit a new place, look for a restaurant, look for good services to provide, it's always reviews that I look at first. So yeah, you hit it. I agree.
All right. I'm gonna get to my last thing here, and it's utilizing the LinkedIn platform. Social media, Facebook, Instagram, they're important for, some brand reputation, and stuff like that. But LinkedIn is the vehicle that, we're advocating for. We're really pushing hard, for LinkedIn to be your source of energy, like where you put a lot of your social energy. And one of the reasons is, the brand awareness piece. Another reason is, a lot of the people on this call, are either in fully with, larger commercial accounts and, in bigger, companies, than their own, and just being relevant out there and just showcasing, what your company's capable of, and the ability to get out there. And then the other thing is, the recruitment side on LinkedIn is just become extremely important. As service technicians are starting to build in, their LinkedIn profiles, drivers, have LinkedIn profiles and stuff like that. Being able to go out and recruit on LinkedIn, I think is becoming much more relevant than it ever has. And because I think there is, obviously we all know there's a lack of techs and drivers, in the industry right now. The good ones, before they even call for an interview, before they even think about maybe picking, your company to work for, they're going to go out and see what you're about. especially on the tech side, and this is just a personal feeling of mine, if they see a lot of bad reviews or not good press and stuff like that, or maybe your customers are not aren't saying the best stuff, those techs don't want to go in those homes. They don't want those customers to be yelling at them, because of a previous incident or something like that. So making sure you're showcasing your best stuff, is important on the recruitment side. And we've seen it, day in and day out. So just making sure that, you're taking your LinkedIn profile seriously, I think is super important. And you have your industry partners, that are there too, that you stay relevant with, and that's also important.
Yeah, with LinkedIn, I think one of the things you kind of mentioned it and you highlighted it that I think is super important too is that sense of your company being part of a greater network of like-minded companies and partners. I think that's what actually attracted a lot of the, you mentioned about like hiring and things like that. People like to work with companies that are not isolated, that actually are care about kind of pushing the industry forward and care about kind of be a contributing voice. We have a customer, I'm not gonna mention them by name, that were so vocal about like a lot of these regulation related things, and just kind of really advocating for propane as a safe, fuel choice. And I think they're going about it the right way by really building a really strong LinkedIn messaging. And I was really impressed when I see, them kind of pushing out who they are and showcasing who they are in the company, in their company through LinkedIn.
I love it. I mean, I'm a huge LinkedIn, advocate myself. We try to post as much unique content on there as possible. One of the things that we do, when we get going on a client, is we start a group text message, and it makes it so easy for their like drivers, the techs, management and stuff like that. And it's like, guys, throw it in there, and it's good because we get to govern what goes on the LinkedIn page, but they're all dumping all content for us that's like relevant that day, that week, and it just keeps everything super fresh. So for any of our competitors out there that are probably listening, take that one. But yeah, LinkedIn's great. I love it. I think it's going to be, it's going to be even more relevant, down the road. So we're excited to keep pushing and trying new things, on that platform. And that's all I got for you.
All right, thanks, man. This was fun. For everybody listening, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot them our way here, and I will read them off here to be answered. We got a few questions here. I'm going to read them for you. I think you kind of mentioned some of it already, but one question we have is, which of the email platforms do you recommend?
It's a great question. I think it really depends. Are you gonna utilize the form capacity, like the form, you're gonna utilize forms submissions on your website? Because the Active Campaign, HubSpot, they all allow you to put form codes on the website, which go directly through the marketing platform, which kicks back to, if you have a Cargas, or other ERP systems, we can kick them right back into your system. So it just depends, I think, what you want to do with it. If it's something you just want to do email marketing, and just be very general, I don't think you need a robust platform like HubSpot or Active Campaign. But to do it right, and to take the the segmentation approach, and and the surveying approach, and really getting in and being very targeted with the data points for each customer, you need a good one like HubSpot or Active Campaign for sure.
Yeah, and the thing with HubSpot or after campaign like that is, the email marketing is just a simple, small part of what you use the thing for, right? Like in managing leads, and a lot of our customers, for example, that use HubSpot are using it to track their quotes and sort of like the prospects that they want to sell, furnace to or whatever. So that's just a part of a much bigger strategy, and the email marketing part of it is just one. But yeah, I agree with you. Like I've used, some companies don't need all of that. They just need a simple, straight, easy ones. They use, MailChimp, whatever it is. It all works for me as long as you can import data in a segmented way. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, if it's for your heritage business, I would say like HubSpot and Active Campaign, absolutely 100%. There's probably people on this call that have, whether it's branded or non-branded online divisions or online companies, you
Yep.
know, that's where you might be able to get away with a MailChimp or Constant Contact, where it doesn't need to be as robust. You're sending out your promos once a month. You're having, maybe, you have a window where, you want to beef up, some service calls, or some install. So you offer service or install, to your will call branded, fuel business or something like that. But for your online businesses, your online fuel businesses, you don't need the big boy platforms, but for your heritage ones, I would say don't skimp on those ones. Get the right package, get the right program in there. That way you can really be in a full attack mode.
All right. Uh, so a question here: if I don't have money to implement a system for email marketing and redoing my website, which one should I do first?
I mean, that's an easy answer. It's your website. Because you want Google to start recognizing, your brand and the products and services, that you offer. But there's a way to do both. I think sometimes, people look at, oh, the websites are super expensive. We've rolled out in some instances websites in phases. So phase 1 is 9 pages, it's 11 pages, and that way that if the client has a certain budget, we can make sure that we do both, and you don't need the big, huge 400, 500, 700 page website, to roll out right out of the chute. We just need the essentials. And then you need to drive traffic there. So
Yep.
put the sign up, but you do need to drive traffic to the sign in order to make it hum. So I think just trying to find that balance of, if a company can maintain both for what your budget is, then I think you're really getting the best bang for your buck.
That's cool. Question: is traditional marketing dead? Are we not doing flyers and all that other stuff anymore?
No, it's not dead. It's definitely part of our playbook. We were just focused on digital today, and stuff like that. But no, it's not. It's a huge part of our acquisition playbook for us. Um, you know, hand signed letters, the flyers that go out that push people back to landing pages. Not everyone on this call has an email address for every single customer, but it's not to say that they don't need to hear, some of the offers and some of the promotions and things that you have going on, within the business. So, I will say that with the traditional marketing that we do, we are always trying with a QR code or a domain link, we're trying to drive back to the website so we can get their email address so that it's cheaper to communicate with them down the road. Printing costs are just printing, postage, it's through the roof. So anything we can do to minimize that cost of communication between the business and the customer, or prospect, that's what we're always looking to do. But is it dead? No, no. And I don't think it dies, anytime too soon either.
Yep. So got a couple questions here one is about measuring whether or not, like, how do you measure the success of the campaigns that you're running? Let's say you're talking emails or landing pages. Do you have like key metrics that you're tracking? Do you have like a set number that you're trying to achieve whenever you run these? How do companies that do these campaigns know that their strategy or whatever they're trying to do is working?
It's a great question. So let's do an email. We'll give 2 examples on that. So I'm going to do an email marketing strategy campaign and a pay-per-click campaign. So in the email marketing campaign, we're driving direct. So we have a segment of customers that, let's say, they're will call customers, and they maybe have been automatic before or have not. And we're going to push them to a landing page that talks about the benefits of automatic delivery. We're going to put a promotional offer there, and there's a specific call track number there that gets hit that directs into CSR salespeople. And then there's also a form submission there. So we'll run the campaign for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. And throughout those 3 months, if it's a 3-month campaign leading up to the heating season, every month we're going to go, hey, here's all the leads that came in. Here's what came in off of call track. How many of those converted to customers? And so, you look at, if you're hitting the will call list, and let's say it's 3,000 customers, and you hit them consecutively over those 3 months, you're looking at, hopefully your open rate is over 28 to 29%, and your click-through rates, you want to see it over 7%. With the people that open, and then you're hoping for, the complete conversion from open click to landing page to converting from landing page to automatic customer. I would like to think that you can get somewhere with the right offer. I'm going to say there has to be the right offer. You should be converting around 10%, 10 to 12. On pay-per-click, it again, strong offer, driving to a landing page, specifically for that campaign. Let's say it's a new installation offer for air conditioning, and we usually fire those up right in March, where we get those out early, and you don't spend as much on the budget because there's not a lot of search on it. But it allows, like, the AI, it allows Google to recognize
Right.
the authorities, so that way you're top of the heap. And also you get to kind of decide on the bid price too, because you get
So
out there.
that was gonna be my follow-up before while you're talking about it. Give me a strong offer, give me a bad offer on the same thing.
So for few, what's the long term? So that's the question that I get asked, and I say to people, what's your long term customer value for your automatics?
Yep.
What is, and how long does an automatic customer usually stay with you? And do the numbers in your head. How much do you usually make on your average user? Let's say your average user is 700 gallons, with a service contract, and they stay for 3 years. What's the profitability on that customer? Take that, and I need a percentage of that as the offer, and then let's move them. And when you're going after, the will call base, you already have some brand equity in them. Hopefully you've done a good job, and you serviced them as best as possible. The will call customers are finicky. We all know. And they run themselves out, and of course it's your fault. You as the dealers, it's always your fault. When you run the will call customers out. But you have to look at the long-term customer value, and take a percentage of that, and that's what you should look at as your offer. And you got to look at comps, in your area too. Do some hunting. We do that, for the clients that we work with. We'll look to see what others are offering and make sure that the offer is competitive. And then maybe put a little flair to it. You throw a service contract offering in there as well. So it's just that it's all about the execution of it too. You can put out these monster offers, but there has to be the follow-up. There has to be the ease of signing up. Can they go in through the portal, and sign up and easily, pick which budget plan they want, whether it's 11 months or whatever the case may be. So I think making it easy for them on top of having a great offer is really the home run swing with that.
There you go. And to close here, one last question. If there's one thing that you see is kind of on the horizon and you think it might be the next big thing for marketing and fuel dealer market next year or two, what would that be?
Oh, such a great question. Is it are they asking specifically on the fuel side, or can I answer it in an HVAC capacity too?
Yeah, HVAC is fine too.
So if you're not looking at LSA ads, you need to start looking at those. And it's on the HVAC side, and I'm sure that everyone's heard, whether it's Danny Silverman or whoever, preaching like your service business, your HVAC side of your business shouldn't be flat, or it shouldn't be just used as a, way to pad margin on the fuel side. It should be a profitable side of your business. Well, LSA ads are great because you only pay for the qualified leads. It's
Yep.
not pay per click, it's pay for each qualified lead. And it takes an effort. It takes, like the right paperwork and the right documentation submitted to Google and stuff like that, to get approved for LSA ads. But I will say, once you are approved for them, they are very, very effective.
All right. Cool, man. Thank you so much again.
Thank
I hope
you.
this has been a good time for everybody.